Hey everyone, Michelle here with Plant-Based Kidneys Kitchen, and today we are making a plant-based bacon alternative. Really, it's just a tempeh bacon, and this recipe I got off a blog called Sarah's Vegan Kitchen. I chose this one because it is not crazy high in sodium. There are limited ingredients, so it's pretty simple, and you even marinate the tempeh in the pan that you're going to cook it in, so it's even easier, and I'm always about making things easy. So first, you need to get an 8-ounce package of tempeh. You want to get tempeh that's original. You don't want to get one that's already marinated or flavored. So 8 ounces of tempeh. What we're going to do is like holding it, and this is what it looks like if anyone's never had tempeh. It's made from fermented soybeans. But I'm just going to cut it about like half an inch, basically about that thick. And you could do it thinner, thicker if you want, but I think that's a good thickness so that it cooks, can get crispy, and doesn't take too long to cook. And also, if you do them too thin, then it can fall apart. So we are going to slice this up. And then this is the pan that I'm going to cook it in, but first we're going to marinate the tempeh in it. So just going to lay this in the pan. Make the marinade, which is really easy. So we have our tempeh in there. We'll set that aside. Now let's make the marinade. So we are using a reduced sodium soy sauce. Again, sodium in soy sauce is very, very high. Even reduced sodium soy sauce is not low in sodium. So we got to be mindful of how much we use. But this calls for 2 tablespoons of a reduced sodium soy sauce. So we will add that in. You could also do coconut aminos instead, and generally that's going to be lower in sodium. The reason I'm not doing that is because it also calls for maple syrup. And I think coconut aminos are a little bit sweeter than soy sauce. And so I didn't want it to be too sweet of bacon. But if you really like a sweet bacon, then just use coconut aminos instead of soy sauce. Then we're going to do 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. Right, we're going to do a tablespoon of olive oil. You could always choose to leave this out if you want. Just have oil free. And then our spices. So it's going to be half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. You could use liquid smoke. The original recipe, if you look at that, uses liquid smoke. I don't have that, and I like smoked paprika, so I'm using that instead. So half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, half a teaspoon of onion powder, and then half a teaspoon of garlic powder. And that's it for the marinade. So we will mix that all up. And then the cool thing is we just are going to pour it into this pan over the tempeh. And then what you want to do, either with your fingers or little tongs, is just make sure that on one side it's fully in the marinade. You can even flip it, you can roll it around. But basically what we're going to do is let this marinade sitting in the pan. And again, the pan's off for 5 minutes. Then we're going to flip it, let it marinate for 5 minutes, and then we're going to cook it directly in that pan. After it's been 5 minutes, just flip the tempeh so that it marinates on the other side. And then we're going to let that sit for another 5 minutes to marinate. The tempeh bacon is now done marinated, and we're ready to cook it. So again, we flip this on both sides. It's marinated for 5 minutes on both sides. So now what we're going to do is just put this pan over medium heat on the stove. Okay, so we'll let that get started, and then basically what we're going to do is once we see the marinade start to bubble a little, we want to move the tempeh bacon around in the pan, and then we'll kind of just flip it back and forth and then wait for it to get crispy on both sides. Again, the tempeh is not something that it's on a meat. We don't have to make sure it's cooked to a certain internal temperature. We really just want it to have absorbed that flavor from the marinade and then get a little crisp on it. So while that starts, let me give you the nutrition information. So how I cut this, again, you saw it was about a half an inch thickness for the tempeh. That made 16 pieces of the tempeh. So this recipe will make 4 servings, and then that would be 4 slices each. So per serving, so per 4 slices, it's 159 calories, 12.5 grams of protein, 8.5 grams of carbohydrates, 2 grams of fiber, 293 milligrams of sodium, 280 milligrams of potassium, and 167 milligrams of phosphorus. Now, a few things to note with this. I say it makes 4 servings and 4 pieces as a serving because I think that's pretty generous and what someone would typically eat. If you were using this as like, I just want to sprinkle a little bit of flavor in my salad and it's not the main protein source of my dish, of course you can use less and that's going to be even lower in sodium and potassium and protein. But I think that this recipe and the portion really is a good option that people can try. You can make this and you can try it on a veggie sandwich, in a wrap, in a salad as your plant protein source. Or let's say you're making some sort of breakfast dish that generally calls for bacon, then you can use this in place of it. And what I found with these, vegan or plant-based bacon recipes is that you're not going to eat a piece of it and be like, oh my gosh, I'm full, like this is bacon. It's more that it has the flavor and then sometimes the texture, depending how crispy you get it. And so when it's mixed into a dish like a salad or a wrap or some sort of breakfast meal, then you feel like you're getting that bacon flavor and texture versus just sitting there eating a strip of bacon. It's not fooling anyone to think that this is bacon by any means. So let's check on it. Okay, so, and I know you guys can't fully see this, but it's starting to bubble the sauces a little. So I'm just going to, we don't want it to burn. And that's the thing, if you, let's say you use, instead of the 1 tablespoon of olive oil, if you used a low sodium vegetable broth or water because you wanted to make it oil free, you have to be extra careful to make sure that it doesn't burn in the pan because the sauce can burn easily if it just sits there and if you use water instead of oil. So it's starting to bubble. Again, I'm not flipping it yet. I'm just mixing it around a little so that it doesn't burn. Ideally, what we're hoping for is that we get some crisp because we're cooking it over medium heat, that we get some crisp on both sides. I can honestly already smell that smoked paprika and a little bit of that maple syrup coming through. It smells really good. And there's no exact amount of time that you want to be doing this. So really what you'll do is you'll just check after a couple minutes, you'll see if it's crispy or not. And then you'll flip it once it is. It's really cooking it until all that marinade and liquid absorbs and then to the desired crispiness that you want. So let's move it around, prevent the burning. So we'll let that go a little bit more. Again, flip, and then we're going to keep checking it. Okay, so I'm going to flip this right now because the marinade is starting to really bubble and really absorb. Be mindful, there might be certain parts like down. Make sure that your pan is over the flame evenly so that it cooks even. Just have almost all of them flipped. It's still bubbling. Smells delicious. And you want to be careful too. You might need to, once you flip it, if you feel like it's bubbling it too quickly, you might want to turn it down to more of a low to medium heat instead of being on medium heat. We want to get that crispiness, but there's a fine line between that sauce burning and it being crispy. Okay, almost done. Another thing you can do, so some people have a weird, they kind of get a weird, like bitter flavor with tempeh. And what you could do before you even do anything with this recipe is if you steam or you boil the tempeh like raw before you marinate it for a couple of minutes, then you slice it up and cook it, that can help get rid of some of that bitterness. Okay. I'm going to turn this off now. And I just want to show you. So this is what it looks like. We're going to try this out, but I want you to see it starts to get a little like caramelized or crispy. Really smell. And again, some pieces might be a little crispier than others. The other thing you could do too, if you feel like it didn't get crispy enough, or you're only having your one serving and then you're keeping it in the fridge, you can keep in the fridge 3 to 5 days and then reheat it. But you could also do it instead of heating it in the microwave, you could do it in like a toaster oven and then or in the oven and then let it crisp up a little bit the next time that you use it. Okay, but this is what our tempeh bacon looks like. What I actually think of it is I think it's almost like a combination of bacon and sausage because sausage is usually in links. So that's why I think it's kind of a fun, um, you know, substitute for bacon or sausage that people would normally use because it kind of looks like both of them. And ultimately, as long as we add the flavor to it that we want, then it's going to taste, it's going to give that meaty texture, that smoky flavor. And so again, so I'm just cutting a little piece off. Tastes pretty good. I can taste it's almost like definitely the smoked paprika and the maple syrup really come through. I don't really taste the soy sauce. I think the soy sauce just really helps with, getting some like saltiness into it, but it doesn't taste too salty. Again, you can always play around with coconut aminos instead, but I think the reduced sodium soy sauce helps to really get into the tempeh well, give some saltiness. But like I said, per serving, 293 milligrams of sodium. Yes, that's not considered low sodium, but if you're eating this with a meal that is full of veggies and it's lower sodium in general, your entire meal can easily be low sodium. You can check out my veggie sandwich recipe where I use a bread that has 0 milligrams of sodium and then we add a bunch of veggies to it. So there's tons of room and things like that. And where you make a meal at home, where something like this might be a little saltier, but overall your entire meal would still be low sodium. So try it out, you guys. Comment, let me know what you think. I will put the link for the original recipe because, of course, this is not a recipe that I came up with, but I just wanted to do the nutrient analysis for it, share it with you guys. So if you have kidney disease or you're on a low sodium diet, then you know how this can fit into your diet. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to like it, share with your friends, and then subscribe to the channel. And I will see you all next time.